like come to Pony Sweat to get more tender and more gay for sure. Like, you know, and I always liken to that, like, oh, like what is the tenderizing like part of this? And it's like, oh, it's actually like in the movement. Like you think about like the action, what the action of tenderizing is, and it's actually like kind of beating. You know, and it's like, oh, we're fucking like we are stomping our ways into like more tenderheartedness.
Welcome to Why Not Both, the podcast all about how our multiple passions shape our identity and our lives. I'm your host, Pam Schaefer, and our producer is Laura Studeris. This season, we are brought to you by Under the Radar magazine. If you like what you hear, you can head over to our Patreon to support us directly and get transcripts of all of our episodes, or you can come hang out with us on your favorite social media platforms, where we can be found under WNB the podcast. This week, we spent time with Amelia Richardson, aka the creator of Pony Sweat. I hope that you enjoy our chat. I love how it changed both of us are by like the recording countdown.
That was delightful.
Welcome to Why Not Both, where we have small and absurd delights.
Exactly. Hi. Yeah.
Hello. So the before times, like I started the podcast to talk to people about like all the multiple things that they did that like inform their sense of identity. And now I'm like, so everything imploded and we've been rebuilding everything. So it's way more like freeform now.
Wow. Yeah, right. Everything did implode. That's so funny. I was at like, where was I just the other night? I was at, you know, I was at like an artist talk, seeing my friend Amina, who's a photographer, talk, and saw some folks I haven't seen in a while. And yeah, the question that I wanted to ask them, like I don't think I did ask them because I felt shyness about it. But the question that like came up was oh, who are you now?
Yeah.
who are you now? I haven't seen you in a few years. Like, you know, whatever that means.
I love that question because I found that, I don't know if you had this experience, but I found that people came out of this almost more like, I don't know how to describe it other than more tender and gay.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Which is good.
Everyone was just like, I've discovered all new things about myself. So many new things. Like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. What were some surprises about your friends that, like, seeing people again? Mm-hmm. Was there anything that surprised you seeing people?
People strike me, and I think this is probably related to being more tender and gay. Yeah, people strike me as more themselves. Like there's like this like fleshed outedness that is really cool. Like I see my friends, some folks that I've known for a long time, because I've lived in the same city for all of my adult life basically. So there's some people I see that I've have known for a long time, and I mean, and that's also part of course getting older, of course. But I would say that folks feel and seem maybe a little bit more themselves.
Yeah. It's an interesting feeling being out in the world. Like, do you feel, I don't know how to phrase it. It's almost like when I go out, I feel like more vulnerable but more excited. And I'm curious if you have that experience as well, or what your experience is, because now you're in a way, we're all included in people. So I'm like, oh, that makes us more ourselves too.
Yeah. Totally, right? And like that could also be me just like projecting, right, my own experience onto people. But I don't think so. Like yesterday I saw one of my, dearest, oldest and closest friends, Tyler, and like we only like see each other in person like once every couple or few months, But
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, we were like kind of teasing each other. We were like you look good. Yeah, you look, yeah, just this thing, like, you look more yourself, or, just like,
Yeah.
I like your look. Like, he looked so sharp, and, he was wearing a shirt that, like, he wore when we were in our early 20s, like, he's had this shirt for so long, but it was, like, tucked in with a
Oh.
belt, and, like, he had these really, like, great pants on, and his hair's looking so good, and, like, he just looked like exactly more himself. It was cool.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah,
I love
but he
that.
did reflect back. He said this. He did say the same thing about me, which was nice. That was kind. I was like, okay. But so yeah, I could say that, like, I could just be projecting, some of my own experience onto other people. But yeah, it does feel more vulnerable. I definitely, like, don't have the same um, skill or even desire or skill to pretend or
Yeah.
participate in pretending activities.
That's a very kind way of putting
so
it.
like, so yeah, in that way, yeah, it is more vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially in like your before life, my producer Laura was telling me about what a delight it was to talk to you and like all the fun stuff you did, and I was like, you interacted with so many people like on a really regular basis. I was like, that must have been a huge shift, and I was like, oh my God. Like now getting to interact with people in such a different way, like how does that affect what you like to do?
Yeah. Wow. Sorry to take such long pause. I just want to. I haven't totally. I don't think articulated that, or tried to. Um, could you ask one more time?
Yeah, that question went like four directions. My brain is sometimes like a collision of train tracks that are like, have you thought of these disparate
No, I
things?
love.
Would you like to try to
I
put them
love
in the
it.
same
I love it.
sentence?
I have like a lot of. I have a lot of air in my chart. I have a lot of Aquarius in my chart, and so I'm with that. But yeah. But I want to make sure that I answer the question.
It's so funny. I just realized I might be blushing because I'm like, okay, so I'm an Aquarius sun and my Mercury is in Aquarius. So I communicate very that. Like,
Yeah, amazing. Well, this is great. Like, I like both totally understood your question, and then there was enough of me that was like, oh boy, I better hone in on what exactly Pam is asking me here.
oh my God, that's so funny. Like, literally, my whole chart is pretty much like air, 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 fire, air,
Yeah.
air. Like,
Wow, that's beautiful. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. Yeah,
excellent.
I
Oh,
heard
that's so funny.
I heard yeah, the piece about, like, how my before life was interacting with a lot of folks, in different
Yeah.
ways, and then the shift to how it is now. I definitely heard that part of the question.
Yeah. Yeah, because you really like I loved what Laura was saying that like you really inspire people to embrace themselves, and it's fascinating to hear you then talking about that people are more themselves. I was like, "Oh gosh, like do you find that when you like are you still doing like Zoom classes or in-person classes, and how does that changing your interactions with people now that other people are more on board with this being themselvesedness?"
I see. Oh, I'm so glad I asked for the clarification. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Um, yeah, I mean, just again echoing the tender and gay thing I mean, just the fact that you named that right off the bat makes me so excited because the before life was, that was one of the things that I mean, that could have been a pony sweat slogan, like, come to pony sweat to get more tender and more gay, for sure. Like, so many folks' experience of that class was you know, like, breaking up their heterosexual relationships and discovering that they were gay, and then, and so many people's
Yes.
experience, and also so many people's experiences of, yeah, just, like, really tenderizing, and
Yeah.
that's part of, like, and I always liken to that, like, oh, like, what is the tenderizing, like, part of this? And it's like, oh, it's actually, like, in the movement. Like you think about, like, the action, what the action of tenderizing is, and it's actually, like, kind of beating. And it's like, oh, we're fucking, like,
Yes.
we are stomping our ways into, like, more tenderheartedness. Um, So I guess I would say, I hear you say that, like, so many of us, like, now collectively have been through a period of time that was kind of a beating in many different ways, in very similar ways and many different ways. And so yeah, a lot of us are definitely more tender and more ourselves, because, like, we had to, like, find a way to be with ourselves, right? And so yeah, I do think that there's been, like, a shift, um, in folks, in folks being more driven to, like, not pretend, and and like that is something that we, like, practice through the practice of dance aerobics at Pony Sweat. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really exciting that, I guess, like, yeah, that more folks are on board. It kind of makes it, okay, this is what I really want to say, sorry. It takes me a minute to get there. I think it makes my job a lot easier. Like, I, I think it, like, I have to do a lot less explaining, I think.
Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, people come in like almost like pre-tenderized. It's like
Yeah,
when someone like actually like chops the vegetables for you, and then you just have to do the cooking part.
totally. That is what it is.
like,
That is. Like,
like, yeah.
what's, like, salad in a bag now? Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that. You're like, oh, you come in pre-washed. You come in
Yeah.
like everything's great.
Everyone's like, everyone, like, I give, like, my spiel at the beginning of class about, like, the intention of the practice, like, building the container of what we're there to practice, which is, like, this is a practice in anti-perfectionism. This is a practice in, honoring our limits and boundaries. This is the practice of expressing more of ourselves through the practice of dance aerobics. And everybody's like, yeah. We know. We practice this all day long, Amelia. We're all, like, let's do this.
They're like, trust me, we're already there. Like, just make me sweaty.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's phenomenal, because what you're describing is so much like, it reminds me of the modality of therapy, like somatic therapy, where it's about like expressing the feelings in your body and getting in touch with where those feelings are in your body and how to be embodied in your feeling. I feel like I just said the word body like 3 times in different
Yeah, I
contexts.
loved it.
I feel like one of those like language games.
I loved it.
Like,
That was one of my favorite sentences ever spoken.
oh,
Yeah.
you are very generous.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the word body. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yes, like holding that kind of container for people. I mean, it's precious really in any time, but like especially in this time when we are learning how to be back in our bodies or learning how to be in our bodies in a different way. That's amazing that you get to do that for people.
Yeah.
Like, what an honor to get to hold that for other
Yeah,
people.
for sure it is. It's a great honor. It's a deep honor. I would say, like, something that you said in your beautiful sentence about bodies is that, yeah, like, I think people are also more willing to go there, or to think about embodiment as a, or to think about, like, somatic, like, healing through the body. I think people are more, or a greater number of people are maybe more willing, or that kind of information is more accessible because of this, like, period of time that we all had with, mortality, and, like,
Yeah.
thinking, like, thinking and, quote unquote, not thinking, right? Like, just like having our mortality, like, really just in our faces, like, so much in the last few years, thinking about not getting sick,
Yeah.
trying not to get sick, having loved ones die, trying to protect each other from dying. Like, hello.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
like, it is a very, it is like a very deep honor to like try to work through that experience myself, and then like facilitate like a movement practice with all that information,
Yeah.
like really feeling that like this is on everybody's minds.
Yeah. Because I would imagine even before that, like, there are probably people who have a pretty visceral emotional reaction, I would guess, in the classes that you lead.
Yeah, they do.
Um,
Yeah, there's like there's a joke, you know, or it's not a joke. It's very real. Like Isabel, our social media manager, will often share things on the Instagram about folks crying at Pony Sweat. And like, yeah, I
yeah.
I mean, yeah, you know, like our bodies hold on to a lot of stuff, and when we create the space, when we create the space to like be with be with our feelings, be with our bodies, yeah, like things get loosened up, and sometimes things come out, and also like you know, I won't lie, like you know, I want to dance to emotive songs, like I like that's
Yeah.
the music that I love. Like music has helped me from when I was a child to know what I was experiencing, like to just understand, you know, not even through lyrics, through feeling, through melody, through rhythm, through the whole thing that makes up a song, like that is very much so yeah, it's meant to be evocative, and it is meant to, and it is designed to be evocative to hopefully create some kind of catharsis. I do think that dance class,
Yes.
I do think that fitness class, I do think that, you know, any space where we are coming together and to like have some kind of transformative experience, like we're gonna like that's ritual, like it's a cathartic ritual to come
Mm-hmm.
together to listen to music, to move emotions through our bodies, to like when we are physically changed after we come to these spaces, like it is a transformative ritual. We are physically changed, we release endorphins, we are chemically different than when we walked
Yes.
in. So cool.
Yes, I love that idea of movement ritual because there's so many ways to be involved in ritual, and I was thinking about this when, like, okay, seven tangents just collided. Welcome,
Yeah,
because
cool.
because I saw the hair on the PJ Harvey shirt that you're wearing, and I'm just like, oh, I love PJ.
Yeah, me too.
And you were talking about music, and I was like, it was like I went to see Tori Amos last week, this week, last this yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Right. And I've been going to Tori shows since I was like a little babu Pam, like 15. And so I it felt like I was back at like a religious ritual. Like that's the feeling that I always got, like being at her show, like that
Yeah,
collective energy feeling.
yeah.
And I was thinking about all the ways that we have ritual, and thinking about movement ritual really stuck in my mind because, like, I don't know, were you raised in any sort of religion, or like did was there movement incorporated? Because like where I was raised in temple, it's like in synagogue you would have to stand up and sit down at different times, and like you kind of like almost like when people are praying on their own, like men will sway back and forth to like keep rhythm of it, so there is like movement
Yeah,
in the
cool.
thing. And I
Cool.
was just like, I didn't know if that was part of your upbringing, but yeah, when you said movement ritual, I was like, tell me more, how did
So
that come
cool,
about?
cool. Well, yeah, Tori Amos is definitely a big part of my upbringing, I would say. And remember, like the way that Tori Amos plays piano is a dance, you know, like that was so.
Oh yeah.
I grew up playing the piano and like you know idolized her, and you know the way that she plays piano, like the piano is a part of her body. Um,
Yes.
just like how it's like deeply inspiring, and you know, and I you know that's not how I played piano, but like I would say probably, yeah, I mean she's just a really incredibly powerful artist, and I'm so glad that you went to see her, and it's really really wonderful, and I would agree with you too, and then I'll really answer your question. I would agree with you that she's very skilled at like at holding space in her shows for
Yeah.
folks, and then it does it. it does feel very much like a community, at least in the shows that I've been to, like where like
it
there's
felt exactly like that.
where there's like enough Tori for all of us to love her this much. Do you know what I mean? Do you know, like sometimes you'll go to a show and like there's like a weird like feeling of like competitiveness around like who loves this person the most or who loves this band the most or whatever. Like I really don't like that energy. I'm really sensitive to it. Probably because like I'm a little sister. Maybe that's why. But like I don't know. Like,
I'm a little sister too, so I feel you on this.
I'm always like, there's enough for all of us. There needs to be enough for all of us. Anyway, but I feel that at Tori Amos. I feel like she has a fiercely non-competitive audience. Anyway,
yes.
To answer your question about movement ritual, I wasn't raised religious. But I mean, I guess I was kind of raised in like in a religion of music and like studying music. My dad's a drummer and a percussionist and comes from a musical family, like a family of, he was the youngest of 7 and everybody played music.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there was just, and my mom loves music, has always played records my whole life. Like there was always, like I know every record like that my mom, cleaned the house to and did like, you know what I mean? Like I have a memory of her like cleaning in the weekend and dancing to Eurythmics in the living room, like taking a break from like vacuuming or dusting or whatever she was doing and like facing the window and like doing this kind of like ecstatic like jumping jack kind of move to the Eurythmics and like, so I guess so yeah, I mean, I guess you think about like, yeah, the rituals, like the daily rituals that we have of keeping our home, of doing service to our family. And then, my dad, there were drums all over our house. And yeah, there was just always music playing. And he teaches, actually he's about to retire, I think next year. But he teaches at a university in Appleton, Wisconsin called Lawrence University, and so we grew up. We the first part of my childhood, we lived on campus, like we lived in campus housing, and so I was on campus, and there's music everywhere. There's a music conservatory there, so I guess I would say and I like to dance, and that was it. Aww. And I loved to dance from when I was a kid. Like I understood, like my body understood, like that this is a thing that the body wants to do when it hears music, and like that was just always, and it was, and that was nurtured in me, like to dance at home and to experience music that way.
I love that. I love that you even drew kind of the connections of like the rituals of like caring for one's home and service to one's family, like that all of those are important rituals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, and that those are recognized as opposed to kind of being like swept aside. And I was like, oh, I love that. Like, because I feel like when people sometimes speak of, like cleaning or things like that, and I love that your mom like incorporated ecstatic dance into it. It's like
well, she had a lot of feelings she was trying to move through the body, I imagine.
Yep.
Sometimes I make jokes with folks that come to my class. I'll be like, I'm so thankful you're here. I can't imagine what is going on in your life that made you desperate enough to go to an emotive aerobics class. But that's like, oh, I gotta just jump. I just gotta jump around. I just gotta, whatever.
Just gotta get it out.
Whatever it is, because there's so much information. There's so much in the information that keeps us locked in our bodies, that keeps us not from cutting off the desire to jump around, to to do what our bodies want to do, to shake, to shake, to jump, to stomp, there's so much that cuts us off from that. So yeah, I do think it was powerful to see my mom take that space while cleaning. Yeah.
And to be in tune with what your body wants. Like I've even found that sometimes it's difficult, like to listen to one's body, especially if it's not modeled for you. Like I find that a lot of people, including myself, often sometimes feel like disconnected from my body, and I request. Now my partners know that I call it crush my soul back into my body. That like sometimes if I'm feeling like particularly like that, like it doesn't help to necessarily talk through whatever is on my mind, because I'm not going to solve it cognitively. It's literally my nervous system is activated, and what will help is literally either like lay on top of me, put a giant blanket on me and like squish me,
Yeah.
like a burrito,
Yep.
like, and so yeah, I just call it crush my soul into my body.
Oh my gosh.
And so like,
Yeah.
but it was fascinating learning. Even I'm clearly a very cognitively oriented person in general. Learning like, oh, sometimes you actually, that's not what matters. It's actually listening to your body. And so yes, it's very
Yeah.
strange but
I
magical at the same time.
Yeah, right? It is kind of magical, right? I relate. I really relate. And I you know, I don't think like I remember being younger, especially like in my 20s, and kind of yeah, like hearing this thing about like listening to our bodies. Like that's something, I mean, I think that's, I don't actually know the origins of that phrase, where it comes from. It's used in so many different fields.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely remember pretending to know what that means, and like kind of like pretending to like, oh yeah, like pretending to like be having the experience of listening to my body, right? And that's fine. Like
Yeah.
that's a way that many of us learn. But for
Yeah.
me, actually, like pretending like often is a barrier for me to actually learn things. Like I really need to not pretend in order to in order to learn, to really truly learn
Yeah.
something. And I would say that, like, yeah, pony sweat, like dance aerobics was kind of the way that I have a better understanding of what it means to listen to my body, and also like has also, and then therefore like kind of led me to other tools, like you said, like of nervous system regulation, of like, oh, actually, like this is something that like dance aerobics isn't going to help with. Like I actually need to like, yeah,
Yes.
like I actually need to yeah, be like that's so funny. Me and my partner call it like just squish me. Like I'm like, yeah, that's it. And it's exactly that. It's like putting all of the weight on the body in a way to co-regulate. And yeah, or or other somatic therapies like tapping or things like that,
Yes.
um yeah, I would say the one thing I want to say about that is that once I open myself up to wanting to know more about these things, and then practicing it, and then the more information unfolds. So like, the more I just try to understand what listening to my body means, the more I just try to understand it, the more that I do. So like I have a better, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
That makes total sense, that it's like once you open yourself up to it, then the experience comes. Whereas it's almost like if you're trying too hard, it's like it loops around to like it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, or yeah, I think exactly. And it can be like another place for perfectionism to leak in. Like I'm supposed to just know this.
Yeah.
I'm like this idea that like I'm supposed to already know how to do this. And um like I didn't know, one thing about you know my body, or that was a big barrier for me to even like consider teaching movement practice, teaching especially like an aerobic or like an exercise class, was that like I've always had a story of being incredibly unathletic, and like I didn't know how to breathe as a kid, right? So like my heart rate would get up, right? And then I would start sweating really, really quickly. Like I basically as soon as like my heart rate's up, like I'm pouring sweat from my scalp. And like I'm just like
your
drenched.
body's like, I'm trying to do you a
Yeah,
solid.
totally. And I'm like, stop it. Like, like all of my goth makeup is just dripping down my face and like I'm all red. It's embarrassing. Anyway, yeah, my body's just trying to regulate. Like, I didn't understand that. And I didn't know how to breathe. So, like, I would immediately get out of breath and then have, like, anxiety about why this was happening and not, and, like, and the phrase is always to, like, pace yourself. And, like, why do you tell kids to pace themselves? They don't know what that means. Like, I didn't.
They don't, there's no frame of reference.
Yeah, like, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what that means. And then I was like, oh, they mean, like, go slower. So I would, like, go slower, but, like, I still wasn't able to catch my breath. Like, I would feel like, just all this stuff. And then I carried that with me, forever. And then, like, always trying to escape my body was, like, that was basically, like, the main, like, coping skill that I learned was, like, I just have to escape my body. And that makes it difficult when you're in adulthood to like all of a sudden, listen to your body. But it was through dance aerobics in my 20s. I had an aerobics teacher, Marilyn, where I learned how to breathe. And it's like, oh, you reduce your range of motion. So like, you take smaller steps. You don't put your arms above your head. And you slow your breathing. Like, you slow your breathing because, like, you do actually, like, your body's just wanting more oxygen, which is why you're panting, but you can take in more oxygen when you actually, like, deepen and slow your breath. And, like, it'll be uncomfortable for a short amount of time. And then you will recover faster than you would if you just stopped running and you were panting. Do you know what I mean? So it's that, like, it's okay to experience this kind of discomfort, right? Like this is actually normal. This is what a lot of us experience. This is what it feels like, and then this is how you regulate in your body. I don't know where I went. I don't know why I went on that, but
I love that you shared that though, because that one, it's a gift that your teacher shared that with you, and then that you get to share that with other people.
Yeah.
Because that, like, I remember it was a very, very stoned yoga teacher. Who there was like a rant in that yoga class that they went off on where we were like in Warrior 2 and they were just like, imagine that you're just floating in space. Oh, look, a hot dog went by. And I'm like just chilling in Warrior 2 being like, is this how I die? Are they ever going to let us out of Warrior 2? Like, I'm just like, what is happening? It was like the most surreal class. But I never forgot it because there was the hot dog in space moment. And then there was a moment where we were all I think we were in pigeon pose, which is actually very easy for me because I have hypermobile joints. And so for me, whenever I'm doing especially hip openers, it's more focusing on staying in alignment instead of being like, and there went my joints.
Yeah.
And so obviously though, it's not a comfortable pose. Like most people would not just like chill in pigeon pose.
Totally.
And so the teacher said that they were like, this is just discomfort and discomfort passes. Discomfort is non-injurious. It's different than pain.
Yeah.
They were like, pain is injurious. They're like, there's a difference between the two. So if you're feeling pain, if you're feeling injury, move out of the pose. But if you're feeling discomfort, if you're feeling resistance to wanting to be uncomfortable, that's okay. You can move through that and get to the other side. And I was just like, wow, this class contained both the weirdest moment and the most like wisdom ever. Same class.
Wow.
Hot dogs and discomfort.
That's amazing. That's so funny. That's so funny. What a weirdo.
I was just like, what a treasure. Because, it was like a substitute teacher even for the normal class I went to.
I love that it was a sub. Amazing. Yeah.
So I was like, this random person popped in my life.
So cool. So cool.
I was just like...
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's one of the really powerful things that we can experience through the ritual of exercise and movement practice, right? Is like we can meet our edges. We can like meet our edges and like and create relative safety around meeting our edges and yeah, it was incredibly empowering to learn how to breathe. It was incredibly empowering to know that, like, oh, I could withstand a certain amount of discomfort when, like, most of my childhood, adolescence, and young adulthood was about avoiding discomfort at all costs, which for me meant, like,
Right.
yeah, leaving my body. Like, well, I can't have a body because it's too painful. So
Right.
like,
Right. You're like, I gotta peace out. Gotta peace
yeah,
out.
you know, and like, and you know, and you know, shocker, like that doesn't work.
Yeah, it was just like spoiler alert.
Yeah, yeah, it's not sustainable, and we don't get to grow. We don't get to grow if we don't meet our edges, and
Oh, yeah,
we're here to
like,
grow.
and that, I loved how you framed it of like that your class is kind of like about being like the anti-perfectionism and anti-heteronormativity, anti like all of those things,
Mm-hmm.
because those are the things that usually drive us, at least in my experience, to want to like escape from our bodies.
Yeah,
Is you're like, oh, well, I'm not perfect, or I'm not fitting into these stories that I see around me, like,
yeah,
and so therefore should I just like escape the meat suit question mark?
yeah, yeah,
And so like
yeah,
showing people that they can be safe, like I would imagine both the emotive music, but I'd imagine that would make people cry to feel like safe in their bodies.
yeah, yeah. Me too.
And
Yeah,
yeah, it's like that's really powerful.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You just had a great look on your face, like, whoa.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it is really powerful, and I think it's really, yeah, I think it's really special. I just was just writing like a little like newsletter to just remind folks about class, and this year is, this month is Pony Sweat's eighth anniversary of the first class was taught on around the middle of June of 2014, and um, yeah, and I wrote, I just wrote that like I wrote about how, like, in the beginning of class in 2014, which was a very different time, what I would, say in Instagram posts, or, there was a flyer that my friend Sella made was, you know, that this class is for everybody. And,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really say that anymore because I'm like, oh, it's not actually. It's not actually. Pony Sweat has like all of us, Pony Sweat has also like become more of itself.
Yes.
And in that, it's like,
Yes.
oh yeah, this actually, it isn't for everybody, and it's not actually, and it's not designed for everybody, but it is designed to connect with the folks that connect to this specific thing. And like, I've noticed over the years that
Yes.
there's like, there's some, that there's like, a lot of witches and therapists and teachers that connect with Pony Sweat, and there's like a lot of
Yes.
a lot of theater queers that connect with Pony Sweat,
Yes.
a lot of Tori Amos fans that connect with Pony Sweat, like, like it's yeah, it's not for everybody, and I think that I do think what it is really special. I do. And I've
Yes.
always felt that way. I've always thought that. I've always felt that way. It's been the thing that's like made me continue to want to teach it, is because like I do think it's really something special that we create when we hold that space and do that practice together.
Yeah, and it's important in some ways, not that I wouldn't want things to be open to people, but I feel like it's okay that something is not for everybody.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that strikes me as that resonates with the, being an anti-perfectionist, that it's like you're going to make stuff that not everybody is into.
Yeah, and that like
And that's chill.
and that was not chill for me 8 years ago. Like I would say that has been one of the major like lessons of Pony Sweat for me, is that like, oh, I'm not supposed to make something that's for everybody. That's like not at all
Right.
my responsibility. It's actually irresponsible to do that. And actually, like, I'm really just like, the task at hand is really just to like make something that's like from my own experience, and with as much truth and humility as like I can I can like infuse into the practice, and like that will be the thing that is potent to people, the folks that do connect with it. Like that's that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't yeah, it's not useful for anyone for us to like try and make shit for everybody. Like it's not. I don't know why I
Yeah.
got that idea or where that idea came from, but it like was not good. It was not good for me. It made me it made it really like it made me have a hard time making decisions. It made me
Yeah.
not listen to my instincts. It made me like yeah, and it made me make like mistakes and
Yeah.
hurt myself and hurt others, you know. So yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't. It's not for everybody, but you know, I hope it's for you.
Yes.
Like,
I feel very similarly where I described myself recently as like a recovered people pleaser.
yeah, me too,
And like, yeah.
Pam. Way to go, us. I'm really proud of
Like
us. Yeah,
high
high fives.
And
We got to recover. We
exactly.
got to.
Because I feel it like inside myself when I want to people please or when I want to alter something just for comfort as opposed to like actual authenticity. And it's like, you know, I'm sure that came about either because I picked that story up from somewhere or it was something that kept me safe in the
Yeah.
past. And so it's like, okay, I can see where that came from. But you know, when I feel the urge to do that, I remind myself, like, is this adaptive in this situation? Does this serve the situation? Am I doing this because I feel unsafe? And if I am I actually unsafe?
Yes, yes,
Like,
yes,
and so it's
yes.
like I have to like repeatedly check in with myself. But then I find like if I do put out into the world the things that actually resonate with me, that's when like the people that actually need it come.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're trying to please everybody, it's like, have you had this experience of like if I am working on a song, if I play it for like I have like my little cadre of like my music bestie and my partner and like my mixer, I'll send them stuff in advance to be like, how are you feeling about this? If any of them are like, oh, it's okay, I know I'm not on the right track. It has to be either like, oh my god, this is amazing, I love this part, I love that part, or if they're like, oh, like it's gotta be, there's gotta be like a big
Yeah,
reaction.
yeah.
Because if there's not, I'm like, okay, no, we gotta go deeper.
Yeah, we gotta go
Like,
deeper. I love that. Pam, I love that. And I mean, right, like, and how, you know, where it intersects with art making is so important. Like where people pleasing, excuse me, where people pleasing, like, yeah, intersects with our art making. It's so important. Like there's and what I heard from you is like you can identify now like when you're gonna do it, and I would you know echo what we were talking about before, that like yeah, I now like know how it feels in my body when
yeah.
I'm doing it or when I've done it. You know, sometimes it takes about 20 minutes or a day, like, and I'm like, oh shit, I did it.
Uh-huh.
You
Uh-huh.
know, but like I didn't, yeah, I didn't have that somatic awareness a few years ago even, and so I'm
Yeah.
really like grateful to have that skill, because yeah, that's how that's the signal that I get now is you know a tightness in my belly, like a shortness of breath, and like heat. I get like a lot of heat in my body
Yes.
when I'm people pleasing, which is you know dishonesty, when I'm being dishonest about
Wow.
what I want or what I need or who I am. um,
I get tightness like right under my diaphragm, like my upper belly, and I get kind of cold and I find myself like my posture changes a bit. Like I find myself almost like shrinking a little bit to
yeah,
like almost like protect
yeah,
myself. And those are like my physical tells if I feel a little, I mean, I'm frankly, I have really low blood pressure, so I'm cold like all the time. But if I get colder, like if I feel almost like shaky cold,
yeah,
and so that's interesting that like both of us have very specific like,
yeah,
are you going down the path?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and it's been really like I think thank you so much for bringing it up and for naming it. Like I think you know I in the last few years I've just seen so there's you know folks are talking so much about our experiences of yeah the coping mechanisms and survival tactics that like do not serve us, like people pleasing, right? Or like you know folks talking so much more about boundaries and like it's really important. Like we need more skills in relating to each other. Like clearly, like we all like need more skills. Um, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pass. That's all.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, pass the conch shell.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm so excited when I see people like teaching others and sharing skills and things like that in so many different ways. Like, and it fascinates me to hear about that the origins for this almost came from like movement as well as music, because those are two spheres that really interest me. And sharing that like those are ways to get in touch with exactly what you spoke of, like those skills to relate to yourself and others. I was just like, oh, that's wonderful to access it like through those routes.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, I'm so grateful. Like, I don't know I can't imagine what my life would be like without Pony Sweat. Like, it feels so, it is like, it is one of the greatest gifts of my life that, that my friends helped me show up for it for the first time. You know, that's like the origin story. My friend Noah like booked a spot at a dance studio, the dance studio I still teach at, Live Arts Los Angeles. He like booked a rental and was like, you're gonna teach us an aerobics routine on this night and we're gonna show up. And I needed it. I needed a due date. Like, I needed a due date. I needed someone to just I mean, honestly, like, I needed someone to give me permission. And that, you know, that's been another lesson of Pony Sweat, like, that I'm still learning, is that, like, is that I don't need to wait for permission, and that we don't need to wait for anyone to give us permission. Like, encouragement is like really helpful, and I was super lucky that I had that encouragement. But like, but yeah, I also needed like I needed someone to like give me permission to do this thing that like I wasn't an expert in. That like I maybe wasn't even very good at, you know, like, sorry, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking? Oh my God, Pam!
We were talking about everything.
I know,
we're talking about everything.
Oh shoot! Maybe there was a good reason for that.
I was joking with my podcast producer Laura that like I bring the chaos, she brings the calendar. And, like,
That's amazing.
Where like it's pretty hard to make a misstep in conversation with me because I'm like, no, we're just talking about everything. So, like, it's cool.
Yeah, it is great. And so thankful to Laura. Yeah, that's so great.
And she's the one that's always just like, Pam, here's who you're talking to. Did you put it in your calendar? Can you get me the quotes? Can you, like, she's so just like, here's the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Here's the container. And I'm just like, I get to talk about all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Yeah, like, I'm very lucky. I work with Michelle Rivera, and she's a spreadsheet witch. And like she makes, she has, you know, a great many skills. She's also the artistic producer of Pony Sweat, so we make the videos together, and but yeah, I'm very, very grateful for how she helps shape these containers, you know, because I just want to
the look in my eyes of just like like,
it's a must.
Yeah, because that whole aspect of permission is fascinating to me, because it was early in my relationship with my person that he said to me, he's like, you seem to really like it when, like, it's almost like as long as I know the plan, whatever the plan is, it doesn't matter if the plan's good, bad, medium, whatever. I feel so comforted just by, like, the expectations of a plan. And so jokingly, he's like, bitches love plans. And I was like, this bitch loves plans. Yeah. And so, like, I was just like, accurate. Yeah. So like, if someone almost like sets the framework for me, that's so comforting. Because if I have to set the framework, I'm like, ugh, I have to set it internally and externally. Yeah. That's a lot of framework. That's a lot of plan. Like, so having collaborators like that almost like help me set that frame on the outside. It's almost like giving me constrictions or structure.
Yeah.
Then I can explore
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah, I love
And
that. I
so,
love that. I
yes,
relate deeply
yes.
to that.
And so yeah, that's our hashtag is BLP.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah, this bitch loves a plan too, for sure.
I'm just like, it's just very comforting. Then I know what I can do within those things. And if I don't know the outlines, how do you color within
Yeah,
them?
yeah,
Like, I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and that sounds. I'm so glad that you have friends and collaborators that are supportive of this. Like that's magical. Like that people were just like, here you go, lift off.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I have been really lucky. I mean, from its beginnings, and and even in the beginning of just like coming together, continuing, like basically, like Noah set up that first class, and like I made the
Yeah.
routine. We had a name for it, that he and I came up with, and we worked together in the kitchen, and we were like, making sandwiches and at Antium's kitchen, and came up with the name for it, and then from that first class, like it was immediately like I did it weekly, and there was a space for it, like Karen and Jen, the folks that own Live Arts Los Angeles, were like, yeah, you can just rent the space, you can just have it weekly.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like,
You're
you don't
like, I
need
can
me
do
to
that?
audition, you don't need me to, like, you don't need to approve, like it was, yeah, it was like, yeah, I needed, yeah, like it was, it's been wild. Like it wasn't at all what I thought. It wasn't at all what I thought. Because like the way I used to think was that, and like I know this is not true any, like now I know the truth, right? Is that everybody's just fucking winging it. But like
Oh yeah.
8 years ago, I just like assumed that everybody that like had any kind of like platform at all, even if they didn't have an audience, but if anybody had a platform, then like they were an expert. Like I just
Right.
assumed that everybody was experts, and that like, and it was really, yeah, and I was just intimidated by everything, and I was like, oh, you know, oh, I can actually just show up and do this thing with the skills that I have, and I can like learn. I can learn and I can also learn as I go. And I'm so thankful because my friends. The reason I was able to do that weekly class was because my friends came. My friends came and like helped me learn to be a better aerobics instructor, and like eventually, strangers started to come, and that's how it happened. And yeah, like that's how it happened. Like I learned in front of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you learn by doing. I mean, that's how the
Yes,
podcast
yeah.
evolved. That's how like do you like outside of Pony
Mm-hmm.
Sweat, like what's your music practice like? Like did you perform in front of people? Did you like what's your yeah,
Yeah,
what's the outside of the Pony Sweat?
yeah, I so yeah, like I grew up playing classical piano and violin, and then I quit that in my rebellious teen years. I quit playing music, and always regretted it. And then music really wasn't like, other than being a fan and like just loving music, working in record stores in my early 20s, and but I didn't play music until I met Paris Hurley in 2000. When was that? I think that was like 2017 or 2018. She moved here to LA from Seattle, and she had and has a project, a solo project at that time called Object is Subject, and we had a like she had a fan who was a friend of mine from that I grew up with in Vermont, Sumner, and Sumner
Oh
like
my
found out
gosh.
that she was moving to LA, and was like he's a fan of hers. He like Facebook messaged her and was like, you should get in touch with Emilia. She teaches this class, and Paris came to class, and then like we just started, and was kind of like, I'm trying to put together a band, and do you have interest in being in the band and like dancing and maybe playing some drums? And I was like, fuck yeah, are you kidding? Like
You're like, yes, I
yes,
do.
I do. Like that's a dream. And so I played with Paris in that band for up until the shutdown, and then Paris and her family have since moved to Philadelphia, she's still,
Oh,
and Object of
wow.
Subject is still her project. She's doing it. She's still
Yeah.
doing it. She has an album coming out hopefully soon.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, so since then, like I've been trying to carve out a music practice. Like I have a chord keyboard that my friend Andrea let me borrow, and like I brought it to my friend Romi's house. Romy, who's like an incredible music maker. I'm such a huge fan of her music. She plays with Agender, and she also makes her own music under the name Romy. And
Yeah.
like I went to her house for her to like just show me how to like set up like in Pro Tools, like how, like what do you like what does it look like when you're setting down tracks, like because I just don't again like do I need permission for this? And sometimes when we can just ask for help, it can be like a form of permission, right? Because it's like I'm giving
Yes.
myself permission to like ask a friend for help, and then they're like giving me permission to like learn something by like showing me.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it. Like I have a really strong desire to play drums. Like my dad, the last time I went to visit my dad, he like showed me like how to do a 4 on the floor on the drum set, and like for 3 months after that visit, like I was just doing that in the air because it felt so good in my body. It feels so good in your body. But yeah,
Yes.
I don't have a I have more of like a fantasy music practice at the moment.
I have the feeling you'll get back to a visceral one, because especially your description of playing 4 on the floor in the air and like recognizing like the way Tori was connected to her piano. It's like, I think that's coming. I think
Thanks,
that's
Pam.
coming back.
I appreciate that encouragement. I appreciate that encouragement a great deal. Thank you. Yeah.
And just so you know, that's my baby behind me.
It's so beautiful. I mean, when I saw it, I gasped when your photo came on, because your video came on. Yeah, it's powerful.
I was like, you can come and visit her. I was just like, she and I are moving to Hollywood soon, which is very exciting.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's the end of a West Hollywood era for me, and I'm now entering my proper Hollywood phase, which is wild.
With your baby
like,
Grand? Amazing.
With my baby.
Amazing. So glamorous.
Oh, I'm so excited because one of my friends, it was so serendipitous. She just accepted a job in the Bay Area, but was like, oh gosh, like I don't want to let go of my condo in Beechwood. I love it, but like I don't want to rent it out to a stranger. And she happened to, literally the last time I'd seen her was at my best friend's son's 2nd birthday party in February of 2020. I had just seen my other friend from high school who I hadn't seen in years because she was doing medical residency, and we were like, oh, it's so good to reconnect. And then we were like, let's hang out again. And then it was like, no. And so
No.
No more people for
Yeah.
you. And so it just so happened that she messaged, like my bestie, being like, oh, like, do you know anyone who might be moving? And I literally was in the midst of selling my space.
Wow.
And so it was this very like, and I haven't bought another space yet. And I was just like, it would be nice to get a feel for the neighborhood, even though I'm there all the time, because that's like where my boyfriend lives, and then my best friend lives up the street. I was like, it would be nice to get a feel for that. And it's a bigger space than my space. So now I actually have, she laughed. I was like, oh, I'm so excited. It's 2 bedrooms. My piano's going to get her own bedroom. And she's like, that's deranged. I love
I
you.
love that.
I was just like,
wow. Beautiful.
She's
And
gonna get her
abundance.
own.
That's really beautiful. Congratulations.
Yes.
That's some, and that's
Thank you.
that's some Hollywood magic right there too, huh?
It was very, and like the day that I like signed the lease, I happened to walk by, I kid you not, like it was the day the Bourgeois Pig was closing, and I've gone to that cafe since I was like 15. It was like my living room away from home.
Really, really special place.
Like such a special place. And I talked to the owner because I didn't know this. They were auctioning off everything from inside, and so now I have 2 of my favorite lamps for when I move into my new place.
That's wonderful.
Like,
that's so wonderful.
It was just, yeah, like, and so that was a very long-winded way of saying when me and my piano baby are settled, feel free to come over and play music and like experience all of that, because I was just like, she's a fun one. She's a 1938 like really hearty action.
Awesome.
Like,
wow.
yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for that beautiful invitation. And
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool that you got those lamps. That's powerful.
The lamps are so good. Like I always used to sit by them because they were like they're like carved glass, and they're the exact right height that they
Wow.
cast light onto your book without getting the light. Like you know when you're
Yeah.
trying to like read under a lamp, but then like when you flip the page, it like blinds you.
Yeah.
They don't do that. It's like
Wow.
they're the perfect reading lamp height. As a very specific nerdy person.
Yeah, I love that. You're like, let me tell you about these reading lamps.
Let me tell you about the height of these lamps. So yes, it all worked out in its very strange Los Angeles like Jacaranda Bloom way.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh.
Yeah, very magical. Very, very magical.
So I'm like, I'd be excited to welcome you into that because I think I saw you perform at. It's so funny. My brain is like, it was not called Spaceland at the time. It was Satellite. Now it doesn't exist, which is weird.
Yeah, we
like,
had a residency there in 2019. Yeah, that was so fun. And, you know, we went, we had a residency and I think it was the month of July in 2019. And then one of those weeks we went on tour. We went on a West Coast tour. And I mean, that was, such an incredible experience to do. And, you know, that project was like physically so demanding. And, you know, like I didn't identify like as a dancer, prior to that project, you know, like I had a lot of shyness. I had a lot of shyness about like claiming that, right? Even though, you know, because of capitalism, like that's why. And so, you know, when Paris asked me to be in that project, you know, I also had like a lot of shyness because, you know, I didn't do that kind of dance. I was like, you know, I make up dance aerobics routines. Like that's the kind of dance I do. Like occasionally I'll go to dance class, but you know, I struggle with choreography. I struggle with learning choreography. You know, all the reasons. And you know, speaking of, and like, you know, and Paris has specifically has a practice around permission. And like giving herself permission. She has like a lot of really beautiful, like sacred practice around permission. But I would say that she, you know, really helped me, you know, build my confidence as like a mover. And by, you know, by inviting me to her project, by meeting me where I was at, and then just like practicing choreography, and then there you have it. And then you're performing dance, you're learning choreography, and you're performing dance on stage in front of people. And that residency, you know, like, was so, we did so many shows that month, and it was wild, and like, it was, I felt really strong during that time, because we were just banging drums so hard, banging our bodies in a way that like it just felt so good. Anyway, it was a really, really potent time of my life. I'm happy you were at one of those shows.
I was gonna
I'm
say
happy
when
to
you brought
talk
it up,
about it right now.
I remembered it because it was basically, I remember it was in the summer because it was like this like hot sticky, and usually I don't like hot sticky, but it was a very positive hot sticky. And then like the way that you were moving, and the way that like at first I remember being in the crowd for that one, because like people like to kind of like play it cool. And people like couldn't, because it's so engaging that it's like, it was almost like you were dragging people into the experience, like against their will. They're like, no, I want to be really chill. Oh, this isn't chill. This is so,
totally. I mean, definitely, I would say that was true for Object to Subject and for Pony Sweat, is that like it's definitely like an anti-cool. Both of those projects are anti-cool kid. You know, and like cool kids like right? There's cool kids at those shows. There's cool kids at class, but like that's like the energy that we really want to push past, because that energy is stifling. That energy really, really stifles us. It keeps us from being in our bodies and expressing ourselves. So anyway, that's I love that you picked up on that.
Oh my God, yes.
And actually, I would say that's what Tori Amos does.
Yes, I was just gonna say after the show, because like I hadn't been to a Tori show in so long, And I had forgotten that, like, there is no, like, Tori Amos fans are really down with looking uncool.
Yeah. Yep.
And I love
Yeah.
that.
Same.
Like, you know, no one is caring if they're flailing themselves around to the music, if they're crying, if they're hugging people, if they're like wooing,
Yeah.
like, you know, people are just in the experience. And that's what I always really liked about going to her shows, is that no one is there to like look chic.
Totally. Totally.
like,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, don't get me wrong, I always wear like my favorite shoes to her shows
Well,
in
yeah,
honor of
of
her like
course.
wonderful shoe choices.
Of course.
But like, but aside from that, I'm like, I know I'm gonna be like a ball of snot at some point in the concert. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
that's beautiful.
like, yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that we got to have this conversation. This made me really happy.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much to you and to Laura. I'm very, very grateful to have had this conversation. It was really fun.
Oh. Thank you again for listening to this episode of Why Not Both. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like us and subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform. You can also come hang out with us on social media. We are at WNB the podcast, both on Instagram and on Twitter. This season, we are brought to you by Under the Radar magazine. Under the Radar is a nationally distributed print, music, and entertainment magazine and website. You can find them at www.undertheradarmag.com and feel free to support them on Patreon. Extra special thanks to our producer, Laura Studeris, who is literally a rock star. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you next episode.